Assalamu alaikum. My name is Munira and I am here to present my topic, which is hypothesis testing. I am a student of B.Ed 2.5 morning. My roll number is 39. This topic of presentation is assigned by Dr. Amjad Arain, our great professor. Now I will start my presentation. Testing hypothesis. A manufacturer of emergency equipment asserts that a respirator that it makes delivers pure air for 75 minutes on average. ये टेस्टिंग हाइपोथेसिस के एग्जाम्पल के थ्रू मैं आपको समझा रही हूँ कि जो एक मैन्युफैक्चर होता है वो एमरजेंसी इक्विपमेंट को जब असर्ट करता है तो वो कैसे इस टेस्टिंग हाइपोथेसिस को यूज़ करता है. आगे, a government regulatory agency is charged with testing such claims, in this case to verify that the average time is not less than 75 minutes. To do so, it would select a random sample of respirators, compute the mean time that they deliver pure air, and compare that mean to asserted time 75 minutes. अब जो टेस्टिंग हाइपोथेसिस होती है वो सैम्पलिंग में यूज़ की जाती है. सैम्पलिंग में हमने पढ़ा है पहले कि इसका गोल होता है हैज़ बीन टू एस्टिमेट अ पॉपुलेशन पैरामीटर. But the sampling done by the government agency has a somewhat different objective, not so more to estimate the population mean as to test an assertion or a hypothesis about it, namely whether it is as large as 75 or not. The agency is not necessarily interested in the actual value of mean, just whether it is as claimed. Now I will explain you types of hypothesis. सबसे पहले मैं आपको ये बताऊंगी कि hypothesis होता किस लिए है. A hypothesis about the value of a population parameter is an assertion about its value. As in the introductory example, we will concerned with testing the truth of two completion hypotheses, only one of which can be true. हमेशा hypothesis में एक ही hypothesis सही माना जाता है. There are two types of hypothesis, null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis is denoted by HO, is the statement about the population parameter that is assumed to be true unless there is convincing evidence to the contrary. Now the alternative hypothesis is denoted by H1 or HI, is a statement about the population parameter that is contradictory to the null hypothesis and is accepted as true only if there is convincing evidence in favor of it. Now we will discuss definition of hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a statistical procedure in which a choice is made between a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis based on information in a sample. The end result of a hypothesis testing procedure is a choice of one of the following two possible conclusions. Reject hypothesis, which is null hypothesis, and therefore accept hypothesis is rejected when it is false. And second way is fail to reject hypothesis and therefore fail to accept hypothesis. The null hypothesis typically represents the status quotient or what has historically been true. I have given example of hypothesis, which is a publisher of college textbooks claims that the average price of all hardbound college textbooks is $125.50. A student group believes that the actual mean is higher and wishes to test their belief. State relevant null and alternative hypothesis. In this example, we have to state which is relevant null and alternative hypothesis. I have also given solution, which is given below. Now, we will discuss definitions of hypothesis. If hypothesis has the form mean, the test is called a two-tailed test, which is not equal to one mean and null mean. There are four types of tail test: two-tailed test, left-tailed test, right-tailed test, and one-tailed test. Now, I will tell you about the errors. There are two types of errors. One is known as type 1 error and one is known as type 2 error. In a hypothesis test, a type 1 error is a decision to reject null hypothesis when is in fact true. A type 2 error is the decision not to reject null hypothesis when it is in fact not true. Now, decision is true or whether false. The null hypothesis can be true or false. There are two simultaneous conditions we have. In one condition, there is acceptance of null hypothesis, and second is rejection of null hypothesis. Thus, hypothesis testing is the important method in the statistical inference that measures the deviations in the sample data from the population parameter. The hypothesis tests are widely used in the business and industry for making the crucial business decision. Now, there are the following hypothesis testing procedures which are given below. First procedure is set up a hypothesis. Second procedure is set up a suitable significance level. Third procedure is determining a suitable test statistic. Fourth procedure is determining the critical region. Fifth procedure is performing computations. And sixth procedure is decision making. Now, there are 7 steps of this process, which is known as statistical hypothesis testing. Step 1 is state the null hypothesis. Step 2 is state the alternative hypothesis. Step 3 is set alpha. Step 4 is collect data. Step 5 is calculate a test statistic. Step 6 is construct rejection regions. Step 7 is based on step 5 and 6 draw conclusion about null hypothesis. Thank you so much for hearing my presentation.